The recession hit millions of people hard, especially here in Southwest Florida. You've told us you can't fight the fear that one day your job and the way you support your family could be gone. In the next 30 minutes, we're going to feature stories of hope from people who took their success into their own hands. They've been where you may be now, going through hard times and working to make ends meet. Some lost everything, some chased a new career, and others started with nothing and completely changed their situation. I'm Chris Shaw. This is Southwest Florida Reinvented. Thank you so much for joining us. We want to start with a brand new reinvention. One of the guys you're about to meet sent me a Facebook message a couple of months ago. He saw a reinvention on Fox 4 Morning News, and he told me his family story and how they built a business and a future, really, is even more of an inspiration. You have to do the cutting, all the measuring, and the heavy lifting first.
You have to dedicate your whole life to it.
And only when you put in all the work on the ground can you go up to the top.
You only have one life. You got to take full advantage of it.
Jonathan Marquez and his brother Charlie run Champions Roofing. You may have seen their trucks around town. They do home and commercial roofs, and they're known for their specialty projects.
Yeah, we do like the shingles, basic stuff too, but at the end of the day, what sets it apart are doing homes like this.
And the Marquezes know what you're thinking. Two guys in their 20s with a successful business. They must have gotten help from their parents. They did, just not in the way you would assume.
Well, our childhood was pretty tough. Our parents, they came here to the United States from Mexico. They traveled from state to state, picking tomatoes and picking oranges, any job they could find. I mean, there'd be times where we'd be sleeping in our car for, a week or so, waiting for the next crop season to start.
And when your parents are farm labor workers, you pretty much become one too.
They put us to work at a young age, and they really taught us the value of working.
Growing up, they didn't really think about a career, and they didn't know it was possible to reinvent their lives. When they got to high school, their dad had a roofing job in Cape Coral, and on weekends they worked with him. He stressed to his boys it was better to work for yourself than someone else. And that sparked inspiration.
I did some research online, and I found out you only have to be 18 to get a certified contractor's license in the state of Florida, and I was like, why not go for it?
Charlie got his license in 2015, and 4 days later, he met a man who gave him his first job.
We worked out a deal where he paid for the material and stuff. I just told the guy, I just want to pull the permit, because I want to get that experience of pulling a permit, pulling my first roofing permit. He's like, okay, I pulled the permit, he paid me for the labor, and that's how we got my first job.
Not long after, Jonathan came on board too.
Me and my brother kind of looked at each other and said, let's do this, let's do this for our family.
Did you have any moments where you thought, I don't know if this is going to work?
Oh yeah, especially in the beginning, because, in the beginning I didn't really get a lot of work, back to back to back.
To begin with, we didn't have the proper cash flow to start with. Starting a business with getting no loans at all or anything like that, it's hard in itself.
There was a learning curve for sure. They didn't know anything about sales or finance, so they did what they had done since they were kids. They just worked. They dedicated themselves to figuring out everything they needed to know. It was the same thing for marketing. Jonathan began producing these slick-looking videos of their projects. And so when Irma hit, customers just assumed they were a bigger company than they actually were.
There was a point we were getting 90 to 120 phone calls a day, and we just didn't know what to do anymore.
So they went to the next level. They hired workers, took on more jobs, and grew their business. Today they have 18 employees, and Charlie and Jonathan, who work out of an office these days, plan to open a brand new showroom by the end of the year. They see what they've become, what they've built, as a tribute to their parents.
This is our gift to our dad.
It's also an example of the power of hard work.
Dedicate yourself to it. Dedicate your life to it.
And here's what the Marquez brothers are dedicated to doing next. They have that new showroom opening soon, and they want to expand their business into more commercial work. Okay, it has been a year of changes and growth at Fort Myers Brewing Company. This is their brand new canning machine. This allows them to can beer 3 times faster than they could before. And then there is this. The brewery just announced this massive 40,000 square foot expansion. As you'll see in their story, the owners believe to get their business where they want it to be, they have to keep reinventing. Getting to this point takes the right ingredients.
Time, effort, sleepless nights.
That's the business part of this recipe.
The creative part of it, I think, is the most fun for me.
It's always been that way for Rob White. Back in the early 2000s, when he and Jen were newlyweds in California and she traveled with her job for weeks at a time, he got into home brewing, to her surprise.
I walk in and the hose is connected to the sink and there's all these glass containers all over the place. I open the fridge and all of the shelves are out of the fridge and there's kegs stacked in the fridge. And he literally looked at me and said, "You're gone. I need a hobby. It could be worse." And I thought, I guess, yeah, brewing beer isn't the worst hobby he could have taken up.
As the Homebrew Awards started stacking up, an idea began to ferment. What if this was more than a hobby? The couple happened to move to Fort Myers and there was no brewery here, so they went to work buying equipment.
At that point, I thought we were a little crazy. Our garage was filled with dairy tanks. We couldn't pull a car in and we didn't have a location yet. And my husband was going to build the firebox to put underneath these dairy tanks to make into a brew system, and I had no idea if it was actually going to work.
Looking from her perspective, I guess I could see that.
How did you feel at that time?
I was tired. It was a lot of work. We didn't take on any investors. We cashed in our bank accounts. We did everything ourselves.
And they started small. In 2013, Fort Myers Brewing Company was open just 2 days a week. A year later, they took a bigger risk. Rob quit his job.
I thought, oh, we're giving up a stable salary, insurance. Him leaving that job, we gave all of that up.
They came to wish they'd done it sooner. Pretty much overnight, business exploded.
When we first opened, our tasting room was a couple hundred square feet, and I mean, you're looking at well over 1,500 square feet now of tasting room space.
So everything just keeps getting bigger.
So do the stakes. Fort Myers' first and biggest brewery is now thinking about the future.
We're still having that conversation of, what do we want to be? Because there's great risk in continuing to grow. There's also great risk in making that decision to just be who we are right now.
This is when it started first happening. The hair was breaking off real bad. What woman will want to walk around with patches? I started studying the anatomy of the hair follicle and took some chemistry classes and formulated my own hair loss products. My hair was growing back healthy without the medication. I was working for a nonprofit organization. I started as a truck driver. Went back to school, received my bachelor's degree in business management. I was the company accountant. I went to work one day, and the word was, "Katina, we no longer need you." I decided I was not gonna let no one else do me like that. So I decided to put my bachelor's degree and my hobby to work. That's how Diamond's Hair Care was formed.
You're about to meet an inventor who went through some dark times during the recession. It got so bad he could barely afford to fill his car up with gas. Next on this Southwest Florida Reinvented special, why his future is bright.
Back here we have production assembly. We have recreated every type of lighting available for commercial facilities in an LED version. We're 9 years old now. It's been quite an adventure getting here. We lost 100 customers within a month. Throughout the next year, things really went downhill with the economy. It was really, really hard. I can remember pulling in the gas station and taking my last $3 to put gas in the vehicle. That's when you know, okay, it can't get any worse. You'd have to believe that it takes years off your life. I have to create products and businesses. I just do it all the time. Eventually, we land some LED sales. We began to build the company. We're instrumental in a lot of new technologies and new inventions. So over the next couple of years, we're going to help change the industry quite a bit. And that is a lot of fun.
Well, you know, sometimes a reinvention is about much more than just a business. Our next story may be our most shared reinvention on social media. How much it can change your life when you leave the past behind and focus on your future. It's next on this Southwest Florida Reinvented special. It has been an emotional 6 months since we last saw Sean Casey. The founder of Twin Cuts had been sick, but he made a remarkable comeback and is now back at work. Unfortunately, Sean lost his grandfather recently, and as you're about to see, he played a significant role in Sean's total life reinvention. You may know his face.
I've worked my whole life to get to this point.
On YouTube and Instagram, Sean Casey is a maestro of social media marketing. But he'll tell you the real symphony begins when he has a pair of clippers in his hands.
I love cutting hair. I love somebody in my chair, building that relationship with them.
What he's built is a barbershop franchise. He created Twin Cuts 9 years ago, and since then, he's grown the business to 5 locations and nearly 50 employees.
I'm just a go-getter. I just have a lot of determination. I believe in myself.
And he's reinvented himself no fewer than 4 different times. His story starts in New York City in the late 70s. His mom was a model, and sadly, she passed her demons, her drug abuse, to her newborn son.
I was born addicted to heroin, and it was a big challenge for me to even be born. They called me a miracle baby at the time.
She died of an overdose just 9 months after he was born. Sean's grandparents raised him, but by the time he was a teenager, he didn't have a lot of direction.
In high school, my girlfriend at the time, she got pregnant, and my son was born. Reality kicked in. I had to mature very fast.
He reinvented himself as the only thing he really wanted to be, a barber. He moved to Fort Myers in 2006 and started at the bottom. He didn't have any clients, but he was bold enough to draw up a 5-year plan. He wanted his own place, a hybrid between a neighborhood barbershop and a chain, and he decided to do it right in the middle of the recession. Did you find it hard to get people to believe in you?
Yeah, for sure. It was very difficult at that time. It was scary when I opened up, when you have overhead and you're like, man, we need to get some business in the store.
He went out and got what he wanted. In what turned out to be a brilliant move, he sought out FGCU students right around the time the entire sports world discovered Dunk City. His unique designs put him on the map. Soon, Major League Baseball players here for spring training were coming into his shop. Demand for the Twin Cut style was remarkable. In just a few years, Sean opened up new shops, and the kid who didn't like school was now being asked to teach hair design at schools all over the world. He started with nothing and built something significant.
It's just determination. That's really what it was. It was me getting up and saying, hey, how can I make a brighter future for tomorrow?
And here's where most of these stories end. But Sean still has one more reinvention in him.
Last year, I was diagnosed with stage 3 non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. I used the same mentality as becoming a business owner as I did with my life. I wasn't going to sit around and let something defeat me. I still got up and I worked. My mentality was, I'm going to beat this.
And help other people at the same time. Sean helped create FadeCancer.org to sell t-shirts to pay for his medical expenses and raise money for St. Jude's Cancer Research Hospital. His cancer is in remission now, but there are other complications, so he'll be away from the shop for a while, but he's already planning his next comeback.
There's nothing you can do about the past. It's what can you do today? So do I dwell and complain about everything that I have no control over, or do I wake up with the opportunity that everybody else has in life to say, hey, this is what I have the ability to do, this is how I can grow, and this is how I can push towards tomorrow.
You know what? The owners of Next Plumbing have one eye on tomorrow and the other on making today as good as it can possibly be. They recently opened this state-of-the-art gym. It's free for employees and open 24 hours a day. They want their workers to know they are more important than the business making a few extra bucks. It's a lesson the owners learned the hard way. It's not a glamorous job. Even when you send a high-tech camera deep into the pipes, Inspiration is the last thing you expect to find, but give it a little more cable. You might be surprised. Do you consider this a rags to riches kind of story?
Yeah, you couldn't have got more. You couldn't have got as low as I was.
Lower than the lowest pipes is where George Garner was back in 2010. He had a national plumbing franchise, but the recession completely drained it.
The more I tried catching up, the more I got deeper in the hole. We were running the air conditioning off of a generator just to stay cool. I mean, I didn't know if we were even going to have a house to live in at that point. I mean, I lost everything.
He was a single father with 2 children younger than 5. With nowhere else to turn, he moved in with his future wife, Rosalind.
He's a good person, and I feel like if you're a good person, a true good person, to do good things to others, it will come back to you.
And with that spark of optimism, Garner collected what little money he had left, and he printed off flyers for a new one-man plumbing company.
We went out passing flyers out to just targeted markets, different neighborhoods.
They weren't expecting much, and the proof was in their new office. They set up in the pantry and used milk crates for filing cabinets.
It was really tight. Again, it was next to my kitchen, so while I'm cooking, I'm answering the phone, entering invoices. It was just like that, close to each other.
But there in that kitchen, business began cooking.
I wasn't prepared for it, and it kind of caught me off guard. We couldn't run it out of our house anymore. So we ended up buying a building, then we ended up buying another building. Now we're looking for a third building.
A few years later, their trucks are everywhere. They have nearly 30 employees.
So this is their current location with their vehicle.
And their dispatch center looks like something out of the sheriff's office. So what's the secret? How did all of this come together? The Garners say it's customer service, and I know what you're thinking. Everybody says that. But not everybody has stories like the hospice patient Garner did work for.
His only family was his son in New York. If he needed anything that he could call us, it doesn't have to be plumbing, I don't care what it is. So I ended up driving him for his chemotherapy and went grocery shopping for him.
And when the man passed away, he left his plumber his house. The Garners say hitting rock bottom gave them new perspective. Money is no longer the most important thing. Their family and their customers mean so much more.
Do what you say you're going to do and treat people with respect.
Next on this Southwest Florida Reinvented special, the one question I ask every person I interview and some of the most inspiring answers. Well, you don't always see it, but every time I do a Southwest Florida Reinvented story, I ask the same final question. Here are some of the answers I've gotten in the last year to the question, what's the secret to your success?
Nothing good will come easy. If you really want to, go for it. But, you know, be aware that you will make some sacrifices if it's worth it.
My thing is, I'm going to shake every single person's hand that walks through this door. We're going to talk to every single table. Nobody's going to leave here unhappy, and if they do, we need to make sure we know about it and why it happened.
Without a strong faith, I don't know what it would look like. You just have to go with the punches. You know, if you fall down, you need to get back up.
Find something that you do love doing, because if you don't love what you're doing, you're not going to do it with the same passion, with the same desire.
As you mature and as you get older, you learn that, yeah, there's a way to make a quick dollar by making a deal, but the long-term effect of doing what's right is way more effective.
Just don't give up on yourself. Just keep trying, keep trying. Every day you're gonna face obstacles. You just gotta get over those obstacles and just take it one day at a time. I mean, it's gonna be hard times and it's gonna be good times, but you just gotta think about what are you doing it for.
Well, we are always looking for news stories. So if you know someone who has reinvented their situation, maybe they lost everything and came back stronger than ever, or maybe they built something from nothing, I'd love to hear about it. Send me a message on my Facebook page. It's Chris Shaw, Fox 4. Thank you so much for joining us for this Southwest Florida Reinvented special. Goodbye.